Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we are unpacking a really fascinating philosophical framework. We're going to be diving into an excerpt from a text by Xu. Now, our goal here isn't to necessarily adopt these beliefs, right? But rather to kind of step back and objectively analyze this highly structured, super unique worldview. It's a philosophy that takes a very distinct look at things like devotion, the human ego, suffering, and literally our own mortality. By breaking down these concepts, we're going to see exactly how all these pieces fit together into what the author considers the ultimate journey of the human soul. Let's get right into it.
We're kicking things off with a central quote from the text, "Let us not stop a childlike heart." Now, in a lot of philosophies, a childlike heart just means innocence. But as we really dig into this, you'll see it actually serves as a massive hook for a rigorous framework for living. Here, keeping that childlike heart, it isn't about being naive at all. It's actually about stripping away all that worldly cynicism we build up and replacing it with pure, unyielding love and devotion, no matter what crazy circumstances are happening around you.
Which brings us to Section 1, the path of devotion.
So, the text argues that true spiritual progression requires total, utter dedication to something way bigger than yourself. And honestly, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of what the author is asking. It dictates that anyone walking this path has to completely devote themselves outward. Just look at this progression. It starts with the land that gives birth to us, then it expands to encompass all of humanity, and finally, nature and absolutely all other lives. Basically, the philosophy demands giving up everything you have just to achieve what it calls a perfect soul.
To really illustrate this extreme level of devotion, the author sets up a pretty stark contrast. On one side, you've got worldly, physical debts, which the text actually symbolizes as Satan's dues. Pretty intense, right? And then on the other side, we have the greatest creators, which symbolizes the spiritual purity of heaven. Essentially, the argument here is that you have to settle all your physical accounts. You return your flesh, your blood, all those worldly debts to the physical realm, symbolized here by Satan and Mother Nature, so that your spiritual ledger is completely clean for the Creator.
So, what exactly happens when all those debts are paid up? Well, according to the text, once every worldly and natural debt is settled, you're left with just one thing: intact hearts with love. This pure, unadulterated love is framed as the ultimate currency of the soul. It's literally the only thing a person should have left once they've fully detached from the physical world. Moving on to Section 2, embracing the no ego.
Now, as you can probably guess, all that outward devotion fundamentally requires a massive internal transformation. So let's dive into this definition of no ego, because it's a huge pillar of this text. A lot of times we think of selflessness just as a moral virtue, right? Like just being a nice person. But notice how this text frames it. It's incredibly practical. By giving up oneself, or the ego, the text states you actually eliminate the very target that gets hurt. I mean, think about it. Without an ego, you won't fight with others, you won't get offended, and you strip away all your own personal worries and fears. It acts as a literal psychological shield against worldly suffering.
This is great because it breaks down exactly how this no-ego practice translates into everyday logic. Just look at the contrast. A standard worldly habit is to look outward and judge society, right? But the no-ego practice demands you look inward and only measure yourself. Or, when a worldly habit tells you, hey, someone else hurt me, the text argues you are actually the one in the wrong, and you have to instantly reflect on whether you hurt them. It's a complete flip. External conflict gets neutralized entirely by this extreme sense of internal accountability.
Now, you might hear that and think, wait, isn't that just letting people walk all over you? And the author anticipates that reaction perfectly. This brings up a really fascinating philosophical counterargument. This is not cowardice, but is actually the character that ripe crops must have. I love that metaphor. The text grounds its logic right in nature. Just like a heavy, ripe crop naturally bows its head toward the earth, yielding to others is framed as a sign of supreme maturity and substance. It's not weakness, and it's definitely not escapism.
Let's look at Section 3, redefining hardship and pain.
So, this whole no-ego perspective totally rewires how a person reacts to physical struggles. The text argues that facing hardship is actually something to be welcomed, and it uses this incredibly striking sequence of metaphors to prove that pain is just a necessary mechanism for growth. Look at these steps. Step 1, a lark can only become a phoenix by braving a raging fire. Step 2, a silkworm actually has to go through the pain of exfoliating to grow. And Step 3, it has to trap itself in a restrictive cocoon to ever have a shot at becoming a butterfly. The takeaway? It's super clear. The philosophy insists that without bitterness, your will and your faith simply cannot be honed.
hardship is inherently a good thing.
And because hardship is viewed as this refining fire, the text draws a very sharp dichotomy between two types of wealth. Material wealth, earthly gains, the sweet fruits of our labor, is contrasted directly against heavenly wealth, which is the accumulation of a perfect soul. The text actually instructs followers to actively surrender the material fruits of their labor to society. Just let other people enjoy them. Why? Well, because the philosophy claims that wherever your wealth is, that's exactly where your soul resides. If you only focus on accumulating heavenly wealth, then heaven is where you will ultimately end up.
Which brings us straight to this really profound question, lifted directly from the source text. When we have the quality of a heavenly life, how would we be afraid of death? Think about that. If you spent your entire life yielding your ego, suffering joyfully just to grow, and sending all your spiritual wealth ahead to heaven, what is there left to fear? This question perfectly pivots our narrative right into the heaviest, most challenging topic of the whole text.
Section 4. A new view on death.
Okay, so here we're examining how the text objectively tries to strip away that universal fear of human mortality. The philosophy's stance is incredibly blunt, and it's summed up perfectly by this quote: "Death is where life is reborn." The author states that they absolutely revere life, but they do not fear death. Why? Because death is seen as simply the fairest manifestation of what they call Tao, or the natural way of the universe. Basically, if we don't die here in the physical realm, we can't be born there in the spiritual realm. In fact, the text suggests you should look forward to it with joy, just seeing it as a natural transition for the soul.
The absolutely crucial point here is that, according to this worldview, all the chaotic, deeply complicated human tragedies we see every day, they are actually governed by very simple, underlying natural laws. Everything is within the control of Tao. By facing literally every situation, even death, with pure love, you align yourself with the Tao. The author actually warns that going against the Tao turns everything into void and passing clouds.
And that leads us to Section 5, the ultimate detachment. This absolute, unwavering alignment with the universe brings us to the real culminating progression of the text, ultimate detachment. The author paints a vivid picture of two very distinct perspectives here. You have the short-sighted. These are the people desperately fighting for earthly power, engaging in what the text brilliantly describes as trying to win a fight on a snail's horn. It's just utterly meaningless in the grand scheme. In total contrast, you have the awake. They look at those exact same worldly battles and see nothing but the tragedy of the short-sighted. Those who are truly awake completely refuse to participate in that endless, exhausting cycle of fighting for temporary human victories.
So, how does a philosophy like this practically handle human aggression? How do you deal with conflict? Well, the text gives these rapid-fire directives. If someone wants to rob you, let him take it. If someone acts aggressively toward you, let him use force. If someone wants to posture and act tough, let him be the hero. You can really feel the rhythm of this extreme detachment, can't you? It's an active, conscious decision to just step entirely out of the arena of human ego. You let the aggressor exhaust themselves while keeping your own soul completely unburdened.
Which brings us to the final resounding crescendo of the entire text. Let it go and let all go. Do not attach to anything, whether it's your personal pride, your bank account, your physical pain, or even your deep-seated fear of death. Just let nature take its course. By depositing your love in heaven and flowing with the Tao without any resistance, the text concludes that you will, absolutely, reach your ultimate destination.
Wow, we've explored a deeply challenging framework today, haven't we? One that demands total devotion, the complete elimination of the ego, the actual welcoming of hardship, and absolute detachment from our worldly battles. So, I want to leave you with a provocative question to really ponder. If you were to truly apply this philosophy and let absolutely everything go today, what kind of journey would your soul begin tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.